We always.
Okay.
Oh, Chandler.
This one?
Yeah.
This Jefferson checked it on us.
No, yeah.
It looks
He's supposed to be here.
There you go.
Okay. Those are the two you need?
Now, was this all loaded to board book today? Is that what you're saying?
It's
Okay.
not in board books anymore. We're on Assembly this time. So did you not get a look at it?
I did not get to look
Okay,
at it,
well,
but-
we got 45 minutes to make a decision on that. Well,
Well,
not
I'm-
quite. So let's make sure we understand.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
you're ready?
it is now 4:07. We do have a quorum. If you could stand and pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this is our special session, and later on we'll have a joint meeting with Payette River Technical Academy. Okay, coming to the table is Shauna Davis. This is in regards to the bus.
So we have two different items for tonight. The first one that I'm coming with tonight is the VW proposal that we applied for that grant last year, and we were awarded that. We have a 90-day period to get it enacted and show that we've purchased, or the purchase order is in place for that bus to get going. So I talked with our vendor that we received the bus from last year, and we can piggyback off of that bus that we got last year, so we don't have to go through the bidding process, which is a 4 to 8 weeks, depending on where we fall into getting the bids out and then opening them and then having them approved at a board meeting. We can just do the piggyback and we would be able to order the bus tomorrow. So it will expedite it so we can fit into that 90-day window. It would be the exact same bus that we ordered last year at the 93,281. So currently we have the $7,074 in our bus replacement count, which is the money that goes in from the state and from our rentals, and the miscellaneous field trips, stuff that we use there we bring in about 30. The amount we'll be receiving in July is the 100,227.
Perfect.
Echo.
We wanted to make sure we heard it.
And then the amount we'll receive from the VW settlement is 25% of the cost of the bus. So with all of that stuff added in there, it would leave us with a balance of a little over $70,000 that we could put towards a second bus at a later point.
My question is that 93, the price we paid last
Yes.
spring too?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the price that they sold this bus for, and so that
So
if we
it
piggyback,
has not changed.
So no
Right.
inflation.
right, that bus is the same bus at the same price with the same, everything. We can't change anything on that bus at all.
Good.
We get what it was before.
And it is what you want.
There's a few things that we want to tweak in our next bid, but we're okay with what this one is. And it's the one that has that exterior stop arm camera on it also.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
Yes.
Can I ask,
Sorry.
so last year's model is a 2000, we purchased a 2019, 2018. So is this going
It's
to
a
be?
2020, last year's bus is.
Okay, is this going to be another 20 or is it going to be a 21?
It'll probably be the 21,
And
which
that's
is,
just because depreciation, I wanted to make sure. on
Yeah.
that, so.
so, yep. And if we order this one, we'd be able to get it in and then we'd have that money that we add on to the depreciation schedule also.
Ronnie had a question.
So as far as longevity, you've answered this before, but just refresh me. Our oldest bus was 22, the one we just got rid of?
Yeah, somewhere around that.
Somewhere around that
The
range.
oldest one that we're running on route, well, no, it was older than that probably. The oldest one we're running on route right now is 26 years old.
Okay, so like this new bus, is it running DEF now?
Mhm.
Okay, so any ideas what we're looking at as far as life expectancy of them?
We haven't had enough of them in right now to see how that's gonna work. I do like that we don't have to run them as long. You know, they're telling us that they got a 5 to 10 minute max warm up in the morning, so we're cutting down our idling time, which saves on fuel.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking that question is because, I deal with it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I just know what it's done to the motors as far as, some of these motors are being rebuilt at 150, 160,000 miles. And buses are a little different because you don't necessarily get the mileage, but you still get the hours
Mm-hmm.
on them.
So far, we haven't run into any issues.
Been good so
So
far.
far, yeah.
I just was
But we don't
curious.
have, we're just starting to get
Yeah.
more of those on the fleet, so.
And you guys, you're all aware that as the depreciation, what the state pays us back, the older the bus, we lose out on depreciation each year drops.
See,
So the newer a bus,
Quicker.
yeah, and build it up to where that fund should almost fund a bus or almost two every single year,
Mhm.
just the money that we're receiving,
Right.
so.
So when you get to look at your package, you'll have one of these in there. And this is what the depreciation schedule looks like that we get from the state. So the very first year, so the bus that we put, the bus that we're replacing, or that we were going to purchase, the same one that we got last year. So the first year of depreciation, they give us back $16,000. So just scroll down just a little bit.
Okay.
So in that first column,
Oh, okay.
the $16,002, that's how much we got off, that comes off the special needs bus. The one right below that, the 15, is the bus that we're replacing. So we would get that much. The red line would be what we would get added to our depreciation with this VW bus. So tonight we just need the approval to go ahead and piggyback onto that and get that process started so we can get that bus ordered.
I move we go forward with the purchase, piggybacked on the purchase from last spring. Adequate. That's motion.
Correct.
Second it.
Second, okay.
I'll second it.
Bob, I'll beat you.
Bill.
You can probably leave that one up for, okay, then if you go to the next one, which is the DIRA.
Do a vote first.
Yeah.
before
Oh, yeah.
she's on?
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That one, nope, that's the same one. Okay, so the second one that I have is, found it, we got, that's still a VW.
That's a VW.
We got information on another grant, which that is all the stuff is in your packet. And it's called the DIRA grant, Diesel Emissions Reduction Act. This one is kind of along the same lines as the VW one that we applied for, except for this one is much shorter. The application is like 3 pages. The other one was a lot of work.
Said 14.
It was crazy. And with this one, with the size of the bus that we would replace, it goes by the weight of the bus. We would be getting, if we are chosen under this, we would get $20,000 towards a new bus. So tonight, I'm just wanting approval to move forward with submitting this application. It's got to be submitted by the end of this month. And then when they go through the process, we'll find out in January if we are selected. At that point, they have the time period that you have to fall into everything. So we would be able to get a bus. If we were chosen, if we decided to go that route, we could possibly have a second bus online by our June 31st. So we could get all on the depreciation.
So that'd actually before we roll into the new budget, though, right?
It'd be a part of this year's budget.
Mhm.
The $70,000 carryover that we currently have after purchasing this bus
Mhm.
would be, you'd have that 70,000 plus the 20,000.
Right.
So if it was a 93 or $100,000 bus, we would have to come up with
That'd give
10,000.
it, that only be 10,000.
Right. And I figured it'd probably be around 94 to 95 for a new one because we put because we can't piggyback off the same one twice. We could change those couple little tweaks that we wanted to make into the bus bids. So with what we had left and the 20,000 from this, we'd have to come up with probably around 5,000 to pay for a new bus.
Their salvage on the bus would be,
Yep, it's
So-
the same thing. We have to destroy the bus.
we have to destroy it.
Mhm. But then we get to collect the scrap money off of it
another
also.
$3,000 or something like that.
Yeah, both the bus from the VW and this one would both be, we would get scrap off of both of those. So,
This one is just asking you to put the grant, or to apply.
Yeah, go ahead and put the
We bring
grant
it
through.
back if we actually get it and say, can we
that we did
purchase?
it, yeah.
How those scrap buses, do you get to take any parts off the engines or anything for
We can take off whatever we want.
spare parts?
Mhm.
Okay.
But the problem is the ones we're getting rid of are so old that we
You don't need
can't
It's
use them
obsolete,
anyway,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you have to put a hole in the block and
Right.
then you have to cut the frame in half, so,
Oh, they even make you
Mhm.
dismantle the frame.
yeah.
Mhm.
And you have to give them pictures of all that stuff.
Holy
So,
cow.
yeah, they're pretty,
To prove,
they want
yeah.
it off the road. That's
Mhm.
why they're helping you out, so they want them
Just becomes a short bus.
Yeah.
There you go.
Two-wheeler.
So,
Need to make a motion to move forward.
Madam
on-
Chair, I would like to make a motion to go ahead and move forward with extending Shauna to apply for the application for the bus. Is that all right?
Is there a second?
I'll second for the deer application, yeah.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Yep. Good job.
I was trying to get it out there.
I know. I know. Okay, informational items. Community vision.
Not, you won't see anything underneath it because the idea is tonight is our opportunity to speak with the different community groups at the courthouse at 6 p.m. And I think Mrs. Harrison and I are going to that, but I don't want to just speak out of turn. I wanted to ask, what is our vision in the district? If there's some talking points that we want to talk about. I know what I would like to talk about, but I want to know what the board, if they have any ideas or thoughts on education, at least for the district. What do you see as our vision of the district that I can share with them?
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
I think you've been talking about trying to get planning and zoning to provide some resources for schools and as they approve those subdivisions. And I think that's something that all of us
Feel pretty
are in
strong.
favor of.
To be a part of at least be a part of the discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's just, it really is a major hit on the district if those homes come in without any sort of opportunity to give us resources. And you've convinced me of that.
Thank you. Good, because it's coming and it's coming quickly. So, is there anything else that you kind of go, okay, what do you envision Emmett looking like in 5 years, Emmett School District? This is a chance for us to kind of give our input and with everybody else's to kind of help shape, their plans for the next 10 years in economic development and growth. And I know it's a big thing, it's a big concept, and I'm probably going to sit there and listen to most of it and go, okay, our vision. I mean, one of the things that I really talked a lot about, or, I was processing is what do our students deserve? They deserve modern classrooms, safe buildings. Those are the types of things that I was thinking that are very important. They deserve, good teachers that, support them, not only academically, but to help them, in the community and things like that. Anything else you guys can think of?
Well, I just like, as a community, I'd like to get back to a point, whether it's, CTE programs or sports programs or whatever, that we're hosting things in this community.
Mhm.
There's no reason that we're leaving here to go do robotics over the hill. There's no reason that we're leaving here, can't hold more football games here. There's no reason we, as far as districts and stuff, things of that nature, but it's across the board.
Right. It's not just academics, it's athletics.
It's all of it.
Right.
The dance team, there's no reason that we can't be doing all those things and bring some money to our community.
Right, and I
some
will tell you,
exposure.
part of it is our facilities
Yeah.
don't allow it. I mean, that's kind of where we're at, but
We need jobs.
I was gonna say apprenticeships programs, working with the community. It's out there.
okay. Just wanted some input, and if you think of something else as we pop into this, I mean, just between now and 6:45, I guess, or 5:45, if you have any ideas, so.
And you've already hit on it, Mr. Woods, but retaining the best teachers that we can keep too. I mean, that's a big emphasis. And, I think it helps our students. Our students help that. Obviously facilities are going to help that, but just how do we economically, how do we keep those teachers here so that they're not leaving?
Okay. Good stuff. I mean, yeah,
Collaboration with the community is another good. Which is what this is all about. Anyway.
do we have to collaborate with that PERTA group still?
Yes.
No, but
I gotta dig in every so often.
our last board meeting, though, we talked about it. It'd be nice to have something put up, specifying that that's where those funds went for that,
Reader boards.
that roof on that junior high or even one up at Sweet.
Okay.
Just communication to the
You're
community.
gonna start putting that in our board notes, because that was something that Mr. Smith and I talked about today in our meeting, that hey, this is, and I think it's a great thing, instead of just putting it in superintendent notes, actually have it as a line item. Here's where your tax dollars have gone. Some of them are gonna never change. I mean, they're not gonna change your tax dollars for the additional psychologist. I'll just have it as a line that, hey, we're paying for an additional psychologist for the district. And then we'll add things as they complete projects. But some banners on the schools and.
Can PERTA help with that at all? Make banners?
We actually got a couple banner making machines.
Yeah, vinyl, you can do vinyl
Yeah.
banners.
We have vinyl and cloth, and
But he charges a fortune.
I think probably 2 times 0 would probably be about where the Common Core math is. I think it's 0.
That's more like horseshoe pin math. I'm sorry, I'm a little unprofessional today.
No, I think it'd go a long ways.
Yeah.
I really
You
do.
put PERTA on the bottom of the map if you want to.
We're not advertising. There's no advertising.
Without cost.
Okay, there's some good things. If anything else pops up, I just didn't want to walk in there and tell them what my vision was without actually talking with you and say, hey, this is what the board's looking at. So.
I'd like to go back and to what Mr. Hamilton asked, though. When you ask that question to developers coming in, how exactly are you going to pose that to?
So the question, with planning and zoning, they typically want a written response, and so that's where it's gonna start with a written response. I'm hoping that we can be involved in some of those. I just need to start attending those. I missed that last one, and so they did postpone it. But it'll be a written response initially. This will be our response as a district of, this is if you look at 300 new homes in 242 new homes in that one subdivision with all the phases completed, at 1.5 on average school-age children in that, you're almost an entire new elementary or a new building. You're looking at 400 kids in that. And so how is that going to affect, and especially think about where it's located. The location of it is going to be out there on the end of 12th Street, which means it's a Carberry. So now that we know immediately that Carberry will not be able to handle that. So that's going to be an effect of either transportation, or we're going to have to restructure our zones. And so then if we use this building as the one to kind of buffer that, we still have to change our boundaries as far as transportation boundaries, and what is that going to look like? There's a lot to it. I mean, and that's where I think we write that into that response and say, here's some of the things that take into effect, along with, as we continue to grow, where are we going to find suitable lots to put a new building on? So that a lot of the times, and not that we can get this, but maybe those developers are willing to build a park on their property, but that park is designated as the next site for an elementary school, because they'll like that. I mean, all of a sudden you have a neighborhood school. Some developers go, yeah, you're right, let's do that. And so, they can use it as a park until the district decides that this is a need and we need it at this point. Does that make sense? So those are some of the directions that I think we need to go, but it's talking with planning and zoning, it's having that collaboration with the city and the county. We have to look at what's going on in the county too. I just received another one it was only 4 or 5 homes, I think, on 10-acre parcels, but every one of those homes are going to be bringing in people to our community, and it's going to be interesting.
I was reading something, and I can't remember where it was, where fire districts and police and there are a few that can do that, but there was a limitation on school districts going out and doing that. So I think we got to make sure that we can request that. I mean, we can always request it.
It is a request. We can't charge an impact fee as a district. I know that we have a resolution in front of the ISBA for that coming out of QNUT, but we can't charge it, but we can actually request that and say, here's here's the impact and here's how you can help us with this impact. And because planning and zoning, if you have a great relationship with them, should be going, boy, this isn't just gonna affect, our city infrastructure, it's gonna affect our schools, which in turn, so hopefully we can start to build that partnership and go, we're not out to gouge it to them, but we're out to make sure that these projects have everybody in mind, or at least, the community in mind, because like we've talked, growth is coming.
And complete viability, man, you gotta have it.
Yeah.
It's gotta encompass all of it.
One of the things that, I guess it's probably the candidate, answers in the messenger, but the mayor was talking about the fact that, they're trying now to make sure that these amenities.
Such as Wi-Fi, gas.
Well, yeah, clubhouses, everything else that come with a subdivision those are done up front instead of on the back end. Because in 2008, we had a bunch of subdivisions that had amenities part of the contracts with their buyers. Unfortunately, they went bankrupt, and these the buyers and the community itself just lost out on those things. They just didn't happen because now the contract, the person the contract's with is no longer in existence. And so, anyway, Mayor Petrie is pushing, trying to get those amenities put on the front end of the development instead of waiting until they've sold half their houses or
Right.
3/4 or whatever. At any rate, this might be something that we could work with them a little bit on.
Right, and I think that kind of falls right in line with what I was talking about, the park. The park actually would be donated, or basically this piece of property would be given to the district for a future school site when the district deems it necessary. That's kind of what happened in Middleton, is they had these future sites within those subdivisions that some of them Middleton will never use, but if they ever need to, they have it, and it's built, and it's a park for everybody to use, knowing that eventually if the growth is there, that they'll actually bring those in. Now, they've sold some of those off, I know that, and put more homes on them, but I don't see that happening right here, right now. But that's the way I think is one thing that benefits the school, and it also shows that they're a community partner. They're part of the process as well. They're putting 242 homes out here, but they're actually going to be, helping support us in some way down the road as we grow. Because that scares me. 242 out that way, the 90 that are going into phases 5 and 6, that's 300 new homes on that side of substation, which means 390, I can't add, 330 I think it is, on that side of substation that will affect Carberry, or would affect Carberry and Butteview. And that's within, unless we have a market fallout, that's going to be within, 4 to 5 years, we'll have that. So
And you're figuring that at what, 1.5 per house?
And that's kind of what the typical average household is, on a new home with what they're building. 1.5 school-age students is what you typically have.
I just wonder what it is out there now at that subdivision that's in existence, because I think you're getting a lot of retired folks.
Yeah, and it depends on the
The
size and the amount of
demographics
money.
in there.
We have a lot of kids that are coming out of those subdivisions.
So you probably know more than anybody.
All the elementary kids are walking, and if you're over there ever during the afternoon when they are walking them, they march them off. It's like one of the attendants or the parents walks them down there and cross over. There's a lot of kids, and we actually changed the bus stops over there because we were picking them up on substation. And we had about 30 kids that we were sitting out there on the road trying to get these kids loaded. So now we're going through the subdivision to get those kids all on the substation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
Anything else? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
If you think of anything, just add it to it. We'll add to the list.
Okay. Facility committee.
So just wanted to post who we have nominated for this facilities committee. Brian Gregory, Mark Fear, and Rohrbacher, is it John Sani, Shannon Miller, and Tracy Walton. Is that correct? Plus the 6 of you. So that'll be the group that I'm in, and I think I have everyone's email addresses, and so I plan on sending them some information, everyone in this tomorrow, and then they'll get a hard copy of that information on Tuesday at our first meeting. What I started to do, and this is similar to the last one, this is kind of gives us an idea. This is completely up for change. If I went, okay, if we're gonna do a facilities community task force, here's what we would be looking at during a typical one. October 22nd, introduce each other, review where we are, what we're looking for, review what our task force charge statement, what are we here for? And my understanding, and I know there's more details to Mr. Hamilton's motion, but it was the group is to make a recommendation to the board on how to address the district's facility needs. That's our bottom line, that's what we're gonna do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now, the information you need, the current process timeline reflects a potential spring 2020 bond levy. So I kind of put it out, if we're going in the spring, here's what it would look like. This, then we'd look at all the data, and this is what I'm gonna send you in an email form. Plus I'll have a hard copy, because then we can refer right to it in a hard copy. Facilities committee presentation information, so that's the one we've already had. 10-year facility maintenance plan, which also includes the building, construction, I can't think of it right now, BCF, what it stands for, but it's a report on each of the facilities. It was done by the state in 2015, and it gives you basically a grade on each of the buildings in 4 different areas.
We have that now.
You do have it, yep, and it was adopted in 2015. It's done by the state every, I think, 5 years, but I will send it to you. I could be off, it could be 10 years, because I've only had it done one other time while I was superintendent. I'll get you the enrollment projections, and the information on our building capacities. And then the one that I may not have until Tuesday, will the historical building costs in Treasure Valley. That's how much high schools it costs, the ones that have been built in Treasure Valley. So it's some historical information. That I'm going to get to you in digital form, and then I'll also give you a hard copy I'll give you a notebook. So then you guys can look at it, write on them if you want. Everybody will have the same information in it. Probably want us to talk about safety and security of our buildings, and then anything else you guys talk about. So that's kind of the agenda, would be the agenda for October 22nd. This is after Mr. Smith's given us kind of his maintenance report. Then the next date I threw out there was November 4th. And the reason why I did that is it's right before we go to ISBA. That's the only day that week we could do it. It's a Monday. Just what thoughts you have since the last meeting, kind of go over what our mission and vision is. And then it falls right back into what I want to talk a little bit about is every time we go out to hire a teacher, we're competing against the schools in the West Ada district and those districts, and they look at those facilities and what part that pays in retaining good teachers by, are you investing in your building? But I'll give you some more, and then we start into the needs prioritization. So now you've had the data for 2 weeks, you can go, okay, this is what we're doing in small group sessions of the 12 of us, and then you say, okay, what are your priorities in group 1, 2, and 3 in small group, and then we kind of come together and see if we come up with a list. Hey, this is our number 1 priority. We want this building. So Mr. Teeters says, hey, we want to just remodel the junior high the way it is. That's what his group comes up with. That's great. But the other 2 groups say, no, we want a new high school. And then we start to build that list. That makes sense? And then I threw this in here to do a community listening session, have a time when the community, we say, here's kind of the list we're looking at. What are your thoughts? We could do some things like a coffee talk. I used to do coffee with the principals, do with the superintendent, where come in and I can answer questions for this community. And then I thought we could do some outreach to some of the different organizations, Rotary, Chamber of Commerce, and ask them what are their thoughts. Because we got to make this thing work, we've got to get City Hall behind us too. And all these different groups. Kind of what I thought for November 13th. This is a Monday. Then we moved to, the 13th was
It's a board meeting.
Is it a board meeting?
Maybe it's a per board meeting.
Actually, it is the 13th because it's before our board meeting. That's why I did it from 5 to 6:30. The listening was.
Is that a Tuesday?
Wednesday.
It's a board meeting.
It should be the board meeting. I did it prior to the
Oh,
board
so it's
meeting.
a Monday then?
This one's on.
No, that's a Tuesday.
Monday,
Wednesday,
Is a
and then a Wednesday.
And this is a Wednesday. So that's why I set that one up that day to do a listening session ahead of time. Then the 21st, which is the week before, this is a Thursday, I believe. This is the week before we go on Thanksgiving break. And to come back after all the listening, talking to people, if we need to change the revised prioritization. This is where we would, the fourth is when we would build the actual recommendation. And I know since the board's on it, it's going to be kind of interesting, but the board builds a recommendation to present to them on the 11th for approval if the board in this. Then all that does is give us directions. This is our prioritized list out of this committee. You know, this is what we're going to start moving forward on, because in January you may have new board members that are added into that, and they may, you know, they could change it, whatever. But at least we know where we're going January, to where if you wanted to run it in March, you would have the language put together in January, and that'd be a resolution at the January board meeting to put the language on the ballot. If you wanted to push it off to May, then you have time from January on to kind of to work on what is that really, I mean, what is not only the language, but start pushing it out to the community even more. Does that make sense? Just an idea, just a timeline, the dates, the only reason the 21st is a date is because I'm in project leadership Monday through Wednesday that week, and that was the only day I knew I was available, but it may not be dates that we're all available. So
As far as our group, the extra 6 people are going to be involved through January, or just these meetings that we're setting out?
I think, right, I mean, once you have this presentation, didn't that kind of give you, if this group comes to a consensus and says, here's our prioritized list. We want these 4 things if we can afford it, and it's going to cost $52 million or $56 million for these 4 things, or $62 million. This is the list. This is where we come up.
That was
Yeah.
kind of the commitment I made to the person I talked to. So
Yeah, no, I think that's what I was
It's 2
thinking. But
months.
then again, the board can keep them on longer if you want.
This whole process, so when we be
So these are dates that I put together, just a thought.
And they might be there and the board won't be. Some of us.
And somebody,
That's the first thing. Yeah.
well, that's why this decision should be made in December.
Right.
And now the
Gotcha.
board can always come back and change it.
Right.
But, you know, they should, I mean, hopefully, you've got a committee, you've got a facilities committee that's gone and done a lot of work. So I'm hoping that they're going to respect the work that the board has done, even if there's changes, and at least continue down the path. Yeah. So that's where I wanted to get it out there. I would present this to the group as well, and if these dates don't work, they can be changed. That makes sense?
I'm having cataract surgery on the 3rd of December. 4th might be soon, but
Okay.
I can look in one eye.
All you gotta do is speak, you don't have to see.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, all of these are, dates that, when we get the entire group together,
Right.
may change.
No, absolutely. I just wanted to kind of throw this out here so you had an idea of what based on what you guys had said was what I thought, hey, if we're going to do this, let's do this, So I put this together, just making sure. Okay? And then if there's other things you need that I don't put in this, the first, the binder, then just let me know, hey, I'd like to know this or that about, different areas of growth or what, we'll get it. Okay?
Did you have something in there on bond costs too, in your list of things that's gonna be in our binder?
I can give you bond costs. I can show you bond costs, but here's the thing. I'd hate for you guys to make decisions just based on what you.
Right.
I'd rather you come in and say, this is our number one priority is this building. Then we figure, and then I can tell you, well, your number one priority is going to take up all the bond money we have, or your top 2. And I'd rather you I know you guys would much rather look at the fiscal number, and I can get it to you. It's either way. I just see it's a double-edged sword.
It makes
We
sense
only have
what you're
$60 million to work with, or we want to keep it under 50. So instead, what are our priorities?
But the fiscal realities are going to be part of any decision we make.
Correct. But I think in the beginning, you kind of got to look, okay, what do we see as our priority? If our number one priority is a brand new or a new high school, and that's what you guys choose, and it's going to take everything we have, then we say, this is all we can prioritize in this building and this bond, and this is what we're going to do. And we're going to do everything else and this is how we're going to meet the other priorities, or we're going to have a plan over the next 5 years of what that'll look like. Right? That's my thought. It's a big project. It's exciting, and I know there's other projects out there. I mean, I can tell you, yeah. I'll leave it at that.
Well, that's the scary part about all of it.
Oh, yeah.
We're so far behind the 8 ball. I mean, it's crazy.
You're right. I mean, I'm not saying we've neglected. I think what has happened is we've deferred maintenance, is what I would like to say. to save classroom, to save teachers, to do those kind of things, which is what we needed to do. And now we're trying to play catch up. I think we've done I've looked back through the things, I think you guys have done the best you could with the funds you had. And now we're trying to play catch up, and we're gonna get there. I mean, I think the decisions were made with the right thing in mind, what's best for kids, you know? Can we afford to not put that roof on for another year so we can have another teacher at that grade level so there's not 32 kids in the class? That's kind of the plan. I'll put this out if you guys are okay with this to just the committee, and then we'll set the agenda.
Okay.
And we'll go-
Now, I guess one of the questions I've got, this is a committee, under open meeting laws and all of that. These are not board decisions that will be made in those committees.
Nope.
And so I'm kind of curious about action items and things of that sort.
There won't be an action item until that committee makes their recommendation to the board, and then that board makes a decision on it.
Okay, now, does that committee need to actually publish an agenda that includes an action item when they do it?
No, it would be on our regular board meeting. So
Okay,
they would come to our December board meeting as an action item within that agenda. And they would present at the board meeting, and then that's where you would make that action.
I know that facility here, that building committee is going to have to publish its meetings.
Right, I have to post them, and then I need to set up them to be live streamed and. any
If we
packets
want
being
that, I guess
published.
we don't, that's not necessarily a requirement unless we make it, so.
I would just as soon it be.
I think you'd be better off having it live streamed. That way, you're as transparent as possible.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have no
And anybody-
objection to it, I just, I think it is
You know, and I think, you know, with that, once we have that prioritized list, a simple, even, I know it's not the best, but even a simple survey out on, you know, hey, please take this survey, here's our prioritized list, what do you think of it? We'll get you some more feedback as well, you know, and so that'll be something we can do to get more involvement within the community, you know, so that everybody feels like everybody has a voice. But this will be like work sessions. Each one of these meetings will be like a work session. You'll come back December 11th, if they're ready at that point. If just by December 4th, you guys have made a decision, you got your prioritized list, you'll kind of finalize it on the 4th. This is kind of what we think we're going to do. And then it's a formality, you bring it to the board, and again, you can vote against it as a community. I mean, as a board, you can say, not what we want to do.
Do we have a chairman type situation out of the group? Somebody to be in charge?
That'll be up to, I never thought about that. I should put that in there as selecting. I'm not gonna be a voting member in it.
Right.
I was just gonna be the person that gets you all the data you ask for. I can mediate it, I guess, if you really want, just be what do you think the perception in the community is gonna be? Is it better to do it that way, or is it better to elect somebody?
Well, I guess I'd think maybe elect or to have Jody be the chair of it.
I don't think she can. I'm gonna have to double check with Chrissy, but I don't think you guys can even put input into the recommendation because you're going to vote on it.
I think, yeah, because
So
you'll be
I'm
making
gonna
a
double
vote.
check how
Yeah.
much involvement you guys
one
can
of
have within.
Those people
One
have.
of the six that have.
But it'll have to be decided at the committee meeting.
Yeah, I think I have to look into that.
So the actual recommendation is gonna come from this.
It has to come from them. It can't have any of your guys' input in it.
Well, actually,
It can, it's a work session.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, they can't say,
we set the motion set up the committee, set up its priorities, set up its, when it reports and that sort of thing. It's up to the board to actually set up those kind of things. And we can, I suspect we can go ahead and tell them to elect a chairman or whatever.
What's the benefit of having a chair of it instead of just having Mr. Woods mediate it?
we would need a secretary. Unless you were doing.
I have to look into that, you know, because this, again, having a
You do have
facilities
to
committee
admit
like
it,
this, I need to double check. I'll answer those questions because those are good questions. You know, most of the time when you have a committee, there's only one or two board members on it versus having all six. So that's gonna be interesting. So I never really thought about that until you just brought that up. So let me check into it and I'll have an answer for you on the 22nd. If I get it quicker, I'll send you an email saying, hey, here's what we have to do, okay? That is a good question, because I'm sitting here going, now you got my head spinning.
Well, we don't have to make a decision now, so that's the way you do it.
Because that's a good one.
I'd rather have a decision made before we.
Yeah, at least have a way of making a decision on
Before we step in it again.
Yeah.
Should we take a recess before
That's
work
I'm
session?
ready if you're good. It's good for me.
Okay, recess at
Raining outside or can we go to?
4:46.
Not raining very much, you can go to the playground.
Haven't had a recess in many years. Are Terry and Jefferson gonna be here?
The calisthenics.
Yes.
Terry is on vacation and
We're just here to talk. Have
Yeah.
fun. Well, hey, I'm in a feisty mood. That'll be good.
Oh, that's better.
We're on the.
First of all, before we even start, how's your shoulder?
Shoulder's great. I mean, I've got a nice scar. I look like Frankenstein, and I got a plate underneath it, but
Who did the surgery?
That's why I
As
sat.
long as I'm not in there.
a heave and, St.
I sat here because I'm
Bam, bam,
left-handed.
bam, and he was in and out. And
Gotcha.
That's
he goes,
So I'm just-
that doesn't
it was the worst break he'd had that way.
Yeah, right.
Oh, good.
If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna
You're
do it
so
right.
lucky.
Yeah, right? Wow.
You got an
Goodness.
agenda here, so I know what we're
Oh,
doing.
yeah. Where's the
You wanna
agenda?
Right, how do we, I got, there is,
I have an agenda up here too.
Oh,
You can, you.
Oh, okay.
there's some runoff.
turn it on.
Oh, good.
Bastion there.
Turn it on the.
Really? Yeah.
All right.
There were some agendas, yeah, they're out where the sign-in sheet is.
It'll say-
Does anybody want?
Please.
You want one?
No.
Sure, if there's some out there.
Thank you.
I apologize. We don't have a lot of things on the joint side because we had to deal with a couple action items that I thought you'd be bored with.
Well, we don't need to spend much time. We're just gonna check in.
Okay, we ready? It is 5:00. 5:00 somewhere, yes. 5:00 at district office. Okay, this is our joint session with Payette River Technical Academy. Work Center Bus Service.
Pat, you're on.
The trade.
Is it working?
Hmm?
Is it working, the bus service?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
But I
but
think we were mentioning that if we end up moving another class, which we're planning on doing, moving sports med out to the work center, because we got that whole front end of the building. And if Emmett High School needs M1, Mod 1, and M7, then maybe we could do some sort of a trade that I think Mr. Teeter had actually brought that up, maybe some sort of a trade for the fees to haul the students out to the work center. And see if that would.
yeah, are you talking this year or next year?
This year, we're planning on trying to get the sports med out of there between now and the middle of November.
And right now, I don't think we'll need the facilities. But, if we do hire a teacher, it depends. But that's good to know. I mean, we got that, so
Okay,
option.
cool.
M1 and M7.
Are you
Yeah.
adding another route out there? Because we talked.
No, it'd be the same bus, because I think we're only putting around 20 kids
Okay.
on what is it? 54?
51.
51 student, yeah, so we should be right in there. We're not gonna be overburdened.
Same periods that we're currently taking them out.
Absolutely.
Because that was one of the questions we were talking about is
Yeah, so to be,
said something about adding a fifth period on there.
might be a fifth period. If we can't, then we'll just run, because we'll see how many there are. And if we got our 2 mini buses, we can just run them out. So that way we're not too much of a burden.
How big is that modular? I mean, how many students does that hold? The one that we're vacating?
20, well, we like to keep them around 24, but she's had about
But-
28 in there.
That'll help you,
Yeah.
and it has a bathroom, I think, in it.
Mod 7 does.
Yeah,
That one will
Mod
be
7.
more like a 20. Mod
Yeah,
1 is
that's
more
what
like a
I was
24 to
thinking of that
28.
one. That's mod 7.
There's
It
no
has a-
bathroom in Mod 1.
It has a bathroom in it, it's just so.
No running water.
So it's just a modular,
Yeah,
no amenities.
got a bathroom in it with no running water.
no bathroom, no running water. In any
No,
of the
that's
6
one of them.
modulars, just in Mod 7 it does.
Mod 7 does. That's the one we brought over from Carberry.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. And we refurbished it.
We had that plumbed because of the ice machine for the sports med.
Okay.
Yeah, so that might be a good thing for you to know.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on that?
So let me ask, that'll open up 2 of them? Did I understand that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because one of them's like a lab scenario where they have the whirlpool and the ice machine and a couple folding down, tables where they sit up there and do the taping and stuff. And the other one's just classroom scenario. So
We should set up a tour of the new facility. for the
out there at the
board.
work center,
Mhm.
yeah. Maybe the
Yeah, I'd
next
like
joint board
that.
meeting.
I don't even know where it's at.
I would like to see that.
We'll do.
And they have ramps, that's the other thing, they have ramps leading up to
Madam
them.
Chair,
Mhm.
it's out there, next to Mount,
Mountain West?
Oh,
yeah,
Mhm.
Mount West.
I would just.
Not the
I know where it's at.
Zamzo building, but the
Right.
No, the
I
other
don't know.
one,
The other
I don't know
one,
how it-
yeah.
or Roadinator or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's right
Yeah,
across.
Roadinator's out of
right
there now.
across the parking lot.
Okay.
It's the entire building.
Okay.
If you want, we can maybe schedule the next joint board meeting out there. And because they have 2 office places, we're looking at getting a big table out there anyway. So
Oh, no, that's a
Just a
lovely
thought.
room too.
So you got it all cleaned up now?
I'm trying really hard.
Mhm.
The vacuum doesn't fit my hand.
Okay, middle school teacher, IDLA.
Question, is that IDLA or is that the vocational wheel class? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Because the IDLA was brought in, IDLA, they had the curriculum.
Oh, okay.
But the curriculum it's basically all online. I think Camden is just a little bit frustrated because he wanted to have a little bit more hands-on. But we've taken him in on the PERTA and the Collaboration Wednesdays, PLCs. And so we're getting him some projects to initiate and integrate within those. Because I told him, I said, it would have been hard enough for you to start because we hired him 2 days before school started. And being a brand new teacher and to start right out the gate and having to create your own curriculum is probably not the best case scenario. But we're trying to wean it off to where after this year, maybe even by the 2nd or 3rd trimester, he'll start doing his own thing and bringing in his own stuff and integrating that, kind of calling the class his own. Because it's going to have more of a twist of our 9th grade wheel because we're going to be eliminating that. And so the more project based we have, the more hands-on approach we have, the better off it's going to work out for everybody. It's more interesting for the kids and it's more interesting to get them in the right areas, interest-wise at high school.
Pat, would you mind just kind of defining what the wheel is for people who are watching online? And
So we have 9 different paths that we're creating up the wheel, and each of them will take a group of students that'll be, let's just say for round numbers, 20. So 20 students will be in culinary, 20 in engineering, and 20 in auto. And then after 4 weeks, we rotate the 20 to where this 20 goes here, this 20 goes here, this 20 goes here. And then after another 4 weeks, we rotate it again. So that way in the 12 weeks of the trimester, they will have hit each one of those 3. Then those 60 kids move over to these 3, and this group moves here and this group moves here. To where eventually they work through the whole 9 paths that PERTA has to offer within the whole year. And that way it's just an intro, kind of discovery, kind of a taste of it, see what it involves. And that way they got a better understanding and idea when they hit the ground running for whatever path they want to choose.
And all the 9 paths are.
The 9, okay. So I got to work my way around. So we got engineering, auto, ag with the welding part of it. We have sports med or rehabilitative services, graphic arts, ag, animal science, business, art, and family consumer science.
Did you say culinary?
And culinary.
That's family consumer science is a culinary. Yeah. So that has that.
I don't know, I'd like it. It fit kids better.
You can do the CIS program, you can do it online, you can try to get a taste of it, but you really don't unless you get your hands on it and get your hands dirty and see what it's like. So
Just freeing up that elective as a freshman would be huge.
absolutely,
It would be huge.
absolutely.
What are your numbers right now in there?
For
Are
the freshman
students-
class, we're ranging anywhere between 18 and 23,
Okay,
but every freshman's taking it other than the ones that might have seminary
mhm,
or they're going into band, choir,
okay.
and those students will go there. And there are a couple, there's a couple parents, I even think boy that was in their freshman, and if they don't want to and they know exactly what they want to do, then crying out loud, go, do it.
Well, they're letting him, but they're not. So he's involved, but they wouldn't let him.
They
So,
wouldn't.
No. So it is what it is. I just know that it would do a lot to free up that elective.
Shows how much power I have.
But he is involved. I mean, he's pretty involved with that, so it's all right.
But, and I think that was one of the things that we brought up when we met was to free up that, because right now we have 4 periods because the teacher gets a prep. And then you take the freshman wheel, that means you only have 3 periods to get these kids from an introductory, 3 intermediate at least, and a capstone to be a completer. And it was great in thought, but it's better to have it at the middle school.
Yeah.
Question, so in the 8th grade, this wheel, are the students taking it the full year?
As far as I know, they're doing the same type of thing, so many per trimester. They'll have 4 periods. No, 3 periods each trimester, and then 1 period of math, I think is what he's doing.
So,
So you're looking 60 kids in the first, 60 kids in the second trimester, 60 kids in the third
Different
trimester, that's 180,
Mhm.
exactly.
so they're, but in freshman wheel, weren't they doing that for the full year or were they not?
Each path, but this one, they'll do it with a consecutive 12 weeks.
Okay, so it's just
And it's more
Yeah.
concise, yeah.
be more concise, so
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
get all the kids through pretty much, but it'll be
to me,
one trimester.
I think 7th and 8th grade is, you could get a full
I do
2
too.
years out of it, gives you a little bit bigger
I
of the
do
taste
too.
of it, so.
You'll be able to hit on that.
So do you anticipate using the IDLA again next year? Do you think that's going to be
I don't,
that we need to put into our budget?
I don't think we will. I'll have to have another conversation with Camden, and then we'll definitely, I'll let you know.
That's a good question.
Mhm.
Anything else on middle school?
And so the reason for piggybacking off the IDLA was just curriculum?
Yeah, basically it's curriculum, and they're doing, I can't remember what they called it, but there was another piece in there that it's based around middle school. I don't think it's really based around career tech. It was based around something else that they were trying to teach within that also. So I think getting that out and getting it more focused towards career tech would be, it's going to be beneficial for everybody, so.
Okay, moving on, early childhood education.
I think that's mine.
Mhm.
Excited.
So, basically, the decision that will need to be made by them, the school district board, and I guess the third board too, is should we put together a committee to make the following happen? And so this is kind of what I see is the discussion point. It probably costs between $6,000 and $8,000 to run the program, at least the way I envision it, which would be about $50 per student that's successful. What the Emmett School District would need to come up with is what does it mean to be kindergarten ready? I mean, that's what you have the committee for is in Emmett, what does it mean to be kindergarten ready? We know there's colors and shapes and alphabet and writing your name, but you make up a list. The reason you need that list and fairly simplified, because I've got one here of a list from 0 to 5. Unfortunately, it's in Spanish, I'm sorry. But I mean, these lists are,
He can read Spanish, so that's good.
but you could find, what kids should do. I mean, it's not hard to do. It's a matter of deciding what we want to test for, with that screener, because you could piggyback it off the kindergarten registration time when they have the screener. But you have to make that decision. And I don't think I have the expertise to be saying what you need to know to be a
Yeah,
kindergarten.
that's a specific discipline, preschool. I mean, they go to college just for that, not just kindergarten. It's like blows me away. Early childhood.
I think we could come up with some good points and probably but then the third thing is using it at the piggyback on the kindergarten registration time. If we got our early childhood education, at the PRTA, we could do some pre-testing just in training of parents or, there's lots of things you could do. But then the other big question that need help from the committee is, okay, they qualify for this $50. What's the money going to go for? Is it going to go back to the classroom so they can buy supplies? Is it going to pay for a field trip? I don't know what the best utilization of that $50 would be. So that's basically what this committee would have to do is say, what does kindergarten ready mean? What will the funds be used for, and how we should
And
integrate?
what are the qualifications for the teacher?
Well, the teacher's kindergarten teacher. You mean,
Oh, I get you. Okay.
so we're not doing early childhood education. We're just at the registration time. Are these kids ready to succeed
I
in
see what
kindergarten?
you're
Up or
saying.
down.
Oh, gotcha. I was thinking of whole thing, kind of like Head Start.
That's what I had in my
Yeah.
mind, so explain up or down. What do
So
you mean by
you're
that?
either, the kids are either ready for
For kindergarten,
kindergarten or
or they
they're
would
not.
stay.
And if they are ready for kindergarten, then there's this $50 that would be eligible for either the parent, the school, field trips.
Yeah,
So
right.
we're trying to encourage our parents to work with their kids, their neighbors' kids, to try and get our kiddos ready. So when they step foot at the beginning of the year for kindergarten,
They're ready.
they are ready to, they already have some skills in their back pocket that they can
Gotcha.
all go together so that we don't, because right now we've got kiddos that are ready for third grade going into kindergarten, and then we have kiddos that haven't even learned how to sit in a chair really well. Both of which, there's nothing wrong with either. It's just we need to,
Part of the teacher.
that's the hardest part is for our
Well, I just
teachers.
had
So
Head Start in my mind because
Me too. Yeah.
we put all our kids through it. And so
Well,
I was just thinking that scenario, that was what you were pushing towards.
no, this is more of a diagnostic tool. But there is money available that you could do some, like a 3-week summer kindergarten for kids that were behind. I mean, there's things that can be done. But once you know what issue you have and you're starting to bring the parents in and have the discussion going, then there's other options that open up to help these kids get a
Where
good
does
start.
funding coming from for the $50?
State.
No, well, eventually I'd like to do
Yeah.
that. This is a little bit of a pilot, but right now we'd raise it from donations here in the community. Or maybe the Emmett School District or the PRTA would like to kick in a little bit. But, I'd approached the Rotary Club and looked into that a little bit, and they might kick in some. So I think we could raise the money. The 6,000 to 8,000, there's about 200 kids in kindergarten. About half of them typically are ready. So if that stayed true, it'd cost about $5,000. Hopefully, even starting having the discussion, some parents might engage a little quicker. Because if we decided to do this, we could come out in February and say, we're going to be doing this, and it'd be kind of something in the newspaper and be a Facebook page.
And I think a lot of our parents don't know, what does it mean to be kindergarten ready?
Right.
I mean, I didn't know when my kids were there. I worked with them. They had a good bit of knowledge, but to say, and I don't think any of us, we just don't do a good job of when you finish the 4th grade, this set of skills, your kids are going to know this at the end of the year. And I think that's something that we all can do a better job at. And so I just think even knowing this is what kindergarten ready means. As a new grandma, my grandkids, they're going to be kindergarten ready because I'm going to know what that is when they're 3 and 4. So I can start working on some of those skill sets so that day one, we're good to go. But right now, I don't know what that is.
So we could partner with Head Start, but this is more of a diagnostic tool.
Well, it sounds like it's more of a educational tool for parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they don't know what they're getting ready for.
Right.
Yeah.
And it sounds like nobody does.
I agree with that.
That's right.
So if a child doesn't hit to be ready for kindergarten, do we have like a pre, or do they fall into a pre-first or pre-K?
Well, we have pre-K but those are students that have been identified and that come in. So you're talking about, currently what we do is at Carberry, our students are in a half-day kindergarten, and those that are struggling or behind, there's an extended kindergarten that gives them the second half of the day to help catch those kids up. So that's currently
your
what
full
we do.
day students.
Most schools have used their early literacy money to go to full-day kindergarten. Okay, and that's a direction that you're seeing, and it's the big push by all the region. The entire state superintendents is early literacy, early childhood literacy, because the data's out there that states if they're not reading, it used to be 3rd grade level, but you can look back at data all the way to the 1st grade level. If they're not at grade level by then, they will not be proficient on the exams as they get up into the ISATs. It's starting to show that. And so the new iSIP tool, the iStation tool, is probably one of the better diagnostics we have. It's now, what do we do with the data that we get? So that's where we would use, and I know I kind of got off because I'm on the soapbox, but that's where we would use extended days to help with that, but we can't do more of the same. We have to figure out and have targeted interventions for what are the areas of concern, because you can't just halfway know phonics. You have to know it. I mean, it has to be that if they're at that, just coming out of tier 2 into tier 1 and they still don't have it completely, they're still behind. Those basic skills they have to know it. And that was the data I was actually looking at today, which is interesting because looking at our data and what we need to do just in our district. But so that's what we have. Long story short, yes, we have the extended day program for those students that are struggling in Carberry. At Shadow Butte, they're on a full day kindergarten. And so
How do you determine which students, do you already have a check sheet that tells you the student that's struggling and this student needs to, are they screening them?
yes, they're screened monthly on the iSIP tool. We'll give them screening
okay.
on that, but then there's also other screenings and they're identified and put into those programs. And some of them are even coming from the preschool. They know, hey, they're going to need the added time.
When you say they're coming from the preschool, then you're working with the preschools that are out here, the private ones?
Well, we're talking about our preschool here, our pre-K program.
Yeah.
But
See, because I'm wondering, we've got these other preschool.
Yeah, you can tie into them too.
Yeah.
you have to tie into everybody, but and this kind of falls into our goal eventually is to move 5th grade out. Well, not eventually, very quickly, hopefully, to move 5th grade out of the middle school. And what I've been doing a lot of research on is this wing of this building could be basically early childhood learning center with our preschool program, our kindergarten programs. We could do a lot of things with everybody, kind of focused to here. So, but that's down the road.
But some of that early literacy money, because we increased it 13 million, the
Yes.
legislature did last year. But I think that could be used for some during the summer work.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a great idea. We had, a kindergarten boot camp.
Yeah.
You use that. It's 3 weeks. You identify from your screeners. So you take your screeners that you have in the late spring. You have a good diagnostics test. Say, okay, here's the areas. You can give them, parents say, hey, here's some things you can work on until August 1st. But we're inviting these 60 students that we see that really truly need it to this early, 3-week boot camp or 2-week boot camp to give them a head start on what those first few weeks. Because again, a part of it's confidence. You give those kids an idea, hey, of some of those things, they jump in and they accelerate very quickly. And you can see huge growth K1. And then the older they get, it's a tougher process, especially with literacy. It is such a tough process to get their reading levels up once you hit that second grade level.
So what I'm trying to do with this approach is to tap the resource of parents. Now, not all parents will participate, but it doesn't cost much if parents participate, get involved. Because the option of the state kind of taking over that responsibility is it cost about $60 to $80 million extra statewide. So we can either do something really inexpensive if it works, or spend a ton of money. And in a way, it doesn't help a lot because the kids that come in behind are still behind the kids that are ahead. And if they have a pre-K, they're still, they can never catch up because the kids that are ahead are always ahead, pretty much.
Yeah.
So here we're trying to say, let's catch everybody up more at the same starting place, like at the kindergarten boot camp. So at least in some things, they're starting out more at the same place. Anyway, so at some point, there does need to be an action item to decide if you want to put together a committee to make this work. Because I think that's kind of where we are.
I think that's worthy of being on our, even on Curtis' agenda. Next one to talk about how we could facilitate that.
Yeah, that probably
And
should
then
be put
bring
on
it
our
to
agenda.
then bring it back to Emmett School District.
But it's more an Emmett School District issue.
Uh-huh.
We could help.
We could definitely help facilitate it with our teacher's aids program.
And different things.
SCCLA.
Yeah, that'd be
Early childhood
phenomenal.
there.
We're not in charge of
Absolutely
kindergarten, so.
Yeah. One more question, Craig, on, because we know that there's going to be a new subdivision that's coming in, and I anticipate we're going to have new people moving in. Do you already have it in place that, like, if it's a 5-year-old that's coming in, you have a way of testing and seeing where they fit, even with somebody that's new? Like you were talking about the boot camp and
Well, are you talking, I'm not sure how exactly our screener works here at Emmett. I know most screeners are usually in the late spring and they come in and there's an assessment that goes through. And I know we have that, but as far as when they come in today, they come in and move in as a 5th grader. I mean, it's kind of, you're in the kindergarten classroom, we see where you're at, we see that, with the ISIP testing, okay, this week, and you can see it quickly. You see their scores are low and we're struggling. They'll pick that up very quickly, and then you add them into those programs. Is that what you're kind of getting
yes.
at?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just wondered how you worked with that.
So it's just ISIP screening that.
That's just one, but the teacher's going to know. I mean, the teacher, you sit down and you go, there.
Doesn't take long.
Yeah, it doesn't take. The boots on the ground are the best screeners we have. They're going to come to you and say, hey, here's our issue. Here's our concern. I have a true concern with, the student's comprehension level. We need some, targeted intervention on that. And then you take the ISation test, you see, oh boy, you're right. So that just backs up it's just another target point or assessment point that we can use.
So I guess what I'd say is, if we're going to implement it this year, there's still time, I think. But not if we put it off a couple of months. So, we'll talk about it at our next meeting.
On the agenda.
Are you requesting that it be on their next agenda as well?
If they're interested in moving ahead, yeah, because you'd be the lead
I've
in
written
this.
it down to.
Okay.
And you'd decide and then it would leave up for as far as funding, because I think we can piggyback off of what kindergarten registration time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I think it's mostly that $50 carrot. And I'm just curious as to what some people have as ideas of what that money should be. I have some, but doesn't mean they're any good.
That's a great idea.
Anything else, Mr. Thane?
Nope.
All right, district bond.
I put that on there.
That's one you wanted me to put on.
Oh, well, I guess the only thing I'd like to talk about is, I'm not sure if you're aware that we're looking at possibly running a bond, if the board chooses to, in
March or May.
either March or May is our target date. Pat and I met, we kind of had just a brief conversation about what PERTA's role, and some of the options. So we want to have that communication if we move forward, because you've got, and I'll say this as bluntly as possible. I mean, if we're going to continue the way we are, and I think we have a good relationship, and I understand that I could leave, Pat could leave, and things could change, but we have to look at, we need you, you need us.
Yeah.
And so we'd like you to be involved in that process. At least I think they need to be involved. You guys should be involved in the process as we move forward. That was just some of the discussions we had just briefly. We haven't really had a lot of discussions because we're still trying to figure out what this will look like, if it is going to be a high school, or if it's going to be a junior high, or if it's going to be a remodel, or if it's going to be a piece by piece. What do we do?
So what would you like from our board?
Support once we get started on it.
Absolutely.
Okay, but do you need anything in writing as far as if you're all going to look at a brand new school and that's the number one priority, and we then would want to co-locate, would you need from us the number of classrooms? I mean, are we talking about not just verbal support, but are you also thinking monetary support from PERTA to help with bond payments? If you all built us a facility on the same property, are we talking about totally different pieces of property? I don't know what you, I mean, yes, we can cheerlead, but my thought would be that you would want more detailed information, and I don't know if Pat's going to provide that for you, or if you want that from our board, or what type of information that you all want.
So this is all hypothetical.
Right.
And if and this is me personally, so the board, I haven't asked them this conversation yet. I talked a little bit with Pat. If the board chose to run a bond to build a high school, okay, and we want PERTA to be on that same piece of property, co-located, the exact same thing, I would personally feel that it would be in the best interest of the Emmett School District to build the facility and then lease it to you, or in that way. And the reason for that is because if for some reason PERTA ever went away, we're not out of facility. Does that make sense? So it's to protect both sides of that issue. So then it would become, what does that facility look like? I think that would be a discussion as we get into the design phase, which is way down the road.
Okay.
What are your needs within that facility? What can we accommodate? There may be some things we can't do that. There's something in this bond that we just can't afford. If that's something you want, then you'd have to add that on top of it. That's me personally talking, and I apologize if I'm speaking out of turn. But we are so far, and I forgot I put that down, but.
No, that's a completely different element to the whole bond situation though.
What is?
I mean, just them needs. I mean, I hadn't even really thought about that. Just focused on building a school of some sort or something like that.
Well, and so if you look at it, typical needs are going to be a CTE facility, which, if you look at Middleton's high school, it's got a CTE building. The new Ridgeview has a CTE building. So you look at, okay, what are the design needs that they need within that? But it's also what's going to, fit let's say they went away and they chose to go off on their own because Pat leaves or the board changes and you go, hey, we're going to do our own thing. We still have a CTE facility at that point. They've chose to go a different direction, but we have the facility. So we'd be involved in the conversation of what that building looks like all the way through. Because again, it would be our facility, but then the lease agreement would be set up that, hey, this is what's going to cost you for this facility.
I think Craig's too, if I can interject what I foresee, because I know he's been through this and I've been through it too, and so's Pat, but it's more of a shell. It's like, it's the commitment for the shell. And then we're responsible for what goes
Within.
inside the
Right,
shell.
yeah.
We
You're
dress
not.
it.
We're
Gotcha,
not.
okay.
So it really doesn't affect, it adds to you financially, actually.
So
It's a positive.
as an example, let's say you guys, within that shell, they wanted 2 four-post lifts.
Mhm.
And they chose 10 years or 6 years down the road, they're back out. Well, depending on how the agreement is, those are either our 4-post lifts or now we have a shell again. Now we get to do what we want with it. It's that.
But
That's exactly right.
and my understanding is, since you're the authorizer, if we do disband and PERTA goes away, everything that PERTA has goes to you.
Correct.
Mhm.
And so you're not losing out.
Right.
Even if we purchase the building and put it on the
Yeah.
same site,
Yeah.
if we leave, you guys still have the building.
But I do appreciate I really appreciate that you and Pat have talked, because you've both been through this too. And the point is, it is going to enhance the Emmett School District when it not only PERTA, but it'll definitely enhance. And we can't do a bond. People don't
They can't-
realize
they
that.
can't
We
bond.
can't.
Yeah, well, I understand.
so,
I guess what I was
yeah,
thinking of is, I mean, you guys
so
are off
we've been
site right now.
saving
Everything's
now.
off site.
We've been
Yeah.
saving the money
We're
to
in
build the
modulars and
building.
offsite.
But if
So,
if that could be part of the bond for the shell, then we can financially handle the.
Which would be minute in the scheme of things anyhow, as far as that scenario.
Actually, the amount of money to put into CTE programs.
No, I mean, as far as a shell, just to.
Mhm.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have all your off-site stuff into one.
Everything in one. And
Yeah.
the other thing I reiterate this, the other thing that's going to be really nice is to actually have a bathroom in my building. And I reiterate that again and again and again.
And so does your
I've heard you
board.
say that
We're gonna have to
Preliminary-
heard that
I will
before.
tell you that my preliminary design has a great restroom in the shell of that building, but where his office is, it's way on the other
Well-
side, and it's got an outhouse there.
So you'd still have to run.
That's fair.
Well,
That's a bigger, faster,
yeah.
stronger program. I
Yeah.
And there's a
understand.
lot on the outhouse.
Yeah, there is. You're right, and I'm the only one with the combo.
That's right.
Right.
You'll have to call me every time.
So just for your
I'm sorry.
information, now that you're done with your
Sorry.
fun and games, we're getting pretty close to being able to do something. But we need to know what the Emmett School District's,
Right.
when the community comes together and the school board and come up with a plan, so we can fit in it. We don't really want to act without knowing what the plan is. That's kind of where we are.
Yeah, we're
Yep.
holding off.
And I think what one of the things the school district needs to know is how many square feet.
Yeah.
That's
Those
exactly
kinda-
right.
That was the first thing that popped into my mind when Mr. Wood said that, is like, what size building would it take to house all that?
Oh, that's the
Square footage.
thing the facilities committee didn't, or group didn't discuss. And then, at least when I was there, didn't even approach PERTA was, what do you need?
Right.
I said, well, we need something similar to Middleton and, this and this.
Well, and that's what, again, just preliminary talks, and we were talking about, okay, your sports medicine, as a great example, should probably be in the gymnasium or a classroom right next to it,
Right.
not in its own,
Right.
classroom. You want it close to where that facility is useful both ways. And, there's other ones that would be the same way. And so it's not like it would just be everything in just one building. It'd be classrooms or different areas within a wing would be considered your CT
Yeah.
side.
So like, when we went over and did that training, we went over with you, that building
Yeah.
that you was explaining to us,
Mhm.
what would have been housed in something like that?
The one at Casa, the one over in Nampa.
No, at Casa, I guess, when we went to that.
Well, Casa's by itself though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Casa's, if you remember, Harold's it's totally by itself, and they have 5 different school districts that are
That just
feeding
feed into
into it,
Mhm.
right?
So they have, but that's what I'm asking. They
But the
house
one
everything
for
in that
the
building.
one in
Yeah.
Nampa that we went
No.
to,
Yeah, I didn't go to that one.
oh, I
I
thought you
just was
did,
talking
yeah.
about the one over
Yeah.
when we went to the.
So
So-
Casas
Yeah.
houses all their CTE programs, and they also house an alternative school within that.
Mhm.
So half the building is classrooms and then the other half is all the hands-on. So their labs and their classroom were really close to each other. And then in the middle, they have the lunch facility where the kids can prepare the food and sell it. And so you've got the finance side that they're learning the preparation, the food safety, and making money and providing a service to everyone that goes there. So they really try and partner everything up.
And they even handle the special ed.
Mhm.
They did, that's
in that
right.
building.
Yeah.
Dr. Neville's got his hands full, doesn't he, over there?
So, Mr. Thane, I don't know if you were here and we did discuss, but our intentions are to have something ready by the December board meeting. I mean, if things work out. That gives you a good idea. That's at least what the bond would look like.
Well, until the community kind of decides.
Yep.
I don't think we're going to rely on the board's decision because the committee might not agree with you.
That's
Absolutely.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
I'm
Has
comfortable.
happened before.
That's happened lots of times before.
I'm comfortable with I hope our board's comfortable with Mr. Woods and Mr. Goff talking about
Oh.
the needs, yeah. And then coming back to us
Yeah.
with, on what you see.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, counselor update.
Well, there's several of us who could probably talk on this. At some point, I want to go through the Advanced Opportunities Program because there's several points that correlate with counseling. Pat, do you want to start or?
Well, yeah, I can start and just fill you in on what our counselor, we got a halftime counselor, Chris Savitz. I think his wife actually teaches out of Carberry. And so he's doing 2 days a week for us, hit the ground running. He spent 1 day in each one of the classrooms to get to know the teacher, what they're teaching, everything else, kind of getting indoctrinated with the career technical and what that means. He's also been to 2 different areas just like over in Boise, meeting together with all the counselors and whatnot. But the biggest one that he's doing right now is he's actually started talking and conversation with TVCC and CWI, CSI, and I think he's going to start taking kids. He's going to glean all the seniors and juniors that are going to be completers in the programs and start matching them up with colleges and seeing what would be best suited for them within their path that they've chosen if they want to see that. And so he's also brought representatives from CWI and TVCC on campus to talk. So it's been an asset for us thus far. And then he will be also in charge of the workplace readiness test for all of our seniors. Each one of them has to take it, and then our TSA. So as a completer at the end of each pathway, they take a technical skills assessment. And so that shows where they're at, where they sit and whatnot. And so we'll have all those, and he'll be in charge of that testing. That's it in a nutshell.
All right, I'll do my little thing here.
Now can we look?
Now you can look. I said that because I figured you'd look anyway.
Not me.
So the little sheet, the single page sheet is the 2019 or 2015 Advanced Opportunities Program. The names have changed a little bit. So this is the 5th year, kind of its current format. And I'm going to compare it with the larger packet, which is the last year's fiscal year 19 totals. So on the first page, number 1 is at the top or bottom of the sheet, and that's the total budget for the 4 areas of the Advanced Opportunities Program. So it's gone from 3.5 million to 19.2 million. Number 2 is the number of students served. Now that's not quite accurate in the 15 because it doesn't add up all the students below, but that's pretty close. You can see it's 12,829 in 15, and in 19 it was up to 36,497. So it's grown significantly as the budget indicates that. Number 3 is interesting for me because actually, yeah, that's the one. In 15, there are 8 CTE exams paid for by the Advanced Opportunities Program. Last year, there's 3,700. So that's industry certificates.
3,800, yeah.
Almost 3,800. So that's welding, that's ag, that's CNAs, that's Excel. There's hundreds of these things. They didn't figure out quite how to do it that first year, but this indicates partially the direction we're headed in education in Idaho. About 70% of the jobs you need one of these things. College isn't going to do you much good to be a machinist. It's all right, but machinist, all sorts of things. So this 3,700 number last year was 1,900. So it doubled just in the last year. And then the overload courses, number 4, went from 1,400 to 9,000 students. That indicates students taking classes outside the regular school day, many of them during the summer. So you're getting some year-round schooling going on here. Kind of nobody really is paying much attention, but there's more and more students taking classes during the summer. And I don't know how many, but that's what that is. And then number 5, so it's at the top of the one page, and it's the last one on the larger packet, is the number of dual credits. So it's gone from almost 51,000 to 215,000.
Yeah.
So one thing I'd like to say about that is there is some, well, we'll get to the next page. So the one sheet doesn't have this breakdown. So it's just FY19. And these numbers are on the Department of Education website. So you can go to their website and find them if you know where to look. I have Hispanic mentioned or marked. So that first column, that's percent participating in advanced opportunities. So 14% of the participants in advanced opportunities are Hispanic. The population statewide in the public schools is 17%. So they're pretty close. And same with toward the bottom of the page, you have free and reduced lunch. You've got 24% that are free and reduced lunch and 30% that are in the population. So it's, we still have some area to make up. But on that free and reduced lunch, Deseret News had an interesting article about 6 weeks ago. And they said 89% of students in the lowest quartile of income drop out of college if they go.
Yeah.
So, and then you add it to the male-female breakdown. Females are participating at a much higher rate than males are.
Of course.
So we're hoping that this move to CTE classes and different things will engage more males.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, Elevate Charter School, and this is something we might consider in the future, has 70% of their kids that can't read. It's a CT charter school.
Okay.
And what they've done, we've been doing in the past is, well, if they're not doing well in English, we pull them out of the CT class and stick them in another English class, which they're going to fail again. So they're teaching the English in the CT class, welding or automotive or whatever happens.
Integrating, yeah.
So they just integrate it and pair it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Like
they're able.
writing an essay on what you're doing in CTE or being
Yeah.
able to describe it's
Technical writing,
technical
technical math.
writing is what it
Yeah.
is.
Same with math,
It's incredible.
science.
But that also points back to why there's more females than there are males, because the males are not by nature intrigued by humanities courses.
Yeah.
But they're, you know,
What's
so
humanities
they're
course?
being taken out. Yeah, they're being taken out of humanities or taken out of this to go and
So at some
study
Mhm.
English, you know?
At some point in the future, we might consider, well, one of the things about this counselor, we're starting to do an exit interview of students that leave the, PERTA, the pathway to find out why. Is it because they have to do an academic class? Is it because they lost interest? Is it because, whatever? If it's because they have to fulfill an academic requirement, and we find that out, maybe we need to think
That's
about
right.
some of different ways for them to get that English credit. Just a thought. Don't have any proposal right now, but Elevate Charter School is doing the groundwork from this. And Monica Young is the administrator. Remember her?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yep, played ball with her.
yeah. And so then on the fourth page, I believe, I've marked Emmett Independent School District. And the first column is the amount of total funds that the Emmett School District drew down from the state for advanced opportunities, 142,000. The number of students that participated was 326. The total number of students that could participate was 1202. So that's between the 7th and 12th grade. So that's 27% participation. And then that's ranked 50 in participation in the state. The next number is the amount of money spent per student who is participating. I guess the one thing about counseling, how that fits in on this line is that I think it's important that the Emmett School District or any school district have as many opportunities as possible for these kids. But I would be hesitant to force them into these dual credit classes. It really needs to be their choice. Make it available, but I think if you are pushing kids, maybe a little bit of pushing is all right, but I wouldn't get caught up on these rankings. I'd be more concerned about how many opportunities do they have. Like with PERTA, we only have 9 pathways. But we want to work with our kids, and we'll work with our counselor at some point. If they want to do something that we're not doing, we'll explain to them how they can do it at a community college while they're still in high school. They can use these monies for that. And then the last thing, since we're doing this, we might as well go to the last page. You now know more about the advanced opportunities data than any legislator in the state except me. So it has grade by grade comparison. So in the 7th grade, not many students are taking advantage. That's mostly high school classes. How they can use the program is they have to take high school classes. There were 12 dual credits taken and earned by these students, but most of it was high school classes taken in the summer between the 7th and 8th grade year.
Okay.
The 8th grade, similar, and you can see that the totals participating, and you can kind of read that. What's interesting, that very last sheet is the number of students in the state that have used all their $4,125. And then it breaks it down to, so.
209.
Okay, now tell me where's that number?
Down below the small square.
Oh, okay, top line. There's only 200 that actually used it all.
Use it all, yeah. So this budget item, which is 19 million, I've been telling people when it's completely rolled out and being used by students and they see the possibilities of what they can do in high school. Like this exploratory wheel in the 8th grade, I think is a really great thing. And we make parents and students aware it's eventually going to be a $50 million budget item.
Quick question,
But that's
Steve.
kind of
On
plateau
let's say the one that, where it shows $500 that was, and there was 15,000 students
mhm.
that did that, almost 16,000. Is that just one or two courses maybe that you're talking about?
That's 2 courses.
Two, that's what I wondered if we broke this down. It's, so we know that almost every student, well, not almost already.
61% of seniors participated in some advanced
In at least
opportunities.
one or two, yeah.
Well, dual credit or CTE or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. So they're participating at a high level. And how this fits into counseling is, there's CTE options, there's dual credit options. You got to stand up, huh?
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
still go back
apologize. I'm gonna
meeting.
dismiss to that other meeting.
Oh, okay.
Jody had to go.
Courthouse. I apologize.
I'll stay so that we have a.
Oh, so you have a
The
quorum?
quorum,
Okay.
Are you going to that meeting?
I think we were invited.
So that's kind of the counselor, some of the,
It's commissioners.
Yeah, it is open
It's
meeting.
open.
so I guess there's one other thing. I mentioned
Grants.
that the counselors ought to be aware of. And that is, if they're getting kicked out of the CT pathway, which is what they want to do because of academics, there are some tools that they could use, including taking summer classes to make sure they could stay in these. And I don't know if the counselors are really aware or not.
Online classes.
Yeah, most of them are online.
I think they need to be made aware more and more. Because what a lot of it's being used as CT is being used as a carrot. So if you're doing good, you can stay in your CT class, but if you're not, then you're going to take another math class, another English class, and be pulled out of that. Where I think we should almost flip it around the other way. If you're in a high fluid welding program, then let's get a technical reading in English and writing and math that matches up with that. You don't need dual credit calculus if you're going to be a welder. It's
Or
not
English
needed.
for that matter.
Or dual credit English or British literature or poetry but you do need to have, certain things you do have to have because you got to meet the requirements by the state. But
Well, and a lot of these kids that struggle in those dual credit classes, or, academic classes, not all of them, but a lot of them are lower income.
Mhm.
A CT certificate or an industry certificate is their gateway to having a better life.
Exactly.
We should not be kicking them out of that. Like a welding program, if they become a welder and they get a certificate, they're
making some good money, 60 to 100,000. So,
well, eventually within 3 to 5 years.
right.
Yeah, not right out of high school.
No. But that's after some training within the welding place that they have, but they have zero cost for college is what I'm saying.
And it'd be
We had
sad
students that did.
to make them take a class that they're going to fail, so they can't even get the job.
Especially if they failed it before.
Yeah.
That's the tragedy.
That's where, even going to different places around, I was over at Louisville last year and we went and toured a high school down there. They have revamped their whole school set up. And instead of doing like a flip the classroom where a teacher might have you watch a video of something for a homework and then you come right in and you get to work on it. And that's kind of a flip at the classroom for blended learning. They flipped education. So they have 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. You're doing almost like the freshman wheel. You're doing all exploratory, getting your Englishes, maths, and everything. By the time you hit 10th grade, you know what you want to get into. Now they have some bigger corporations. They have some big insurance company putting money into it. But those students will be on a path of culinary for 10th, 11th, and 12th and hit that capstone and get certifications. But they have all of their courses picked. Then they start putting in the math and the sciences that correlate with it. Way we do things here is we have academia and then your electives. If you want to go into ag, go ahead. Or if you want to go into culinary, go ahead. But that's the ones that the kids actually want to do. Some of them want to, and I'm not saying they're
70% of the jobs are these certificates,
Right,
not
absolutely.
college.
Absolutely.
I'm not opposed to college, but
I do too.
nothing particularly great about it either.
I'm not opposed to college either. But it doesn't fit all the students.
Absolutely.
That's the key.
Secondary education is not for the largest majority of kids that are gonna leave school. I've just watched too many people. It's just not.
Mhm.
And then what they do get, they never use once they're there. They go into a completely different field of work once they leave post-secondary.
Traditionally, it's been a college prep.
And
That's
so,
what secondary school's been. That has been the goal. But,
So I guess that's why I bring this up and the advanced opportunities and everything is that our counselors, it'd be kind of interesting to sit down and have a discussion with them and say, this is where most of these kids are going is not college. That's not where most of them are going.
Right.
We need to be sensitive to the ones that aren't going there, that we grease their pathway too and make it as easy as possible.
But one of the things that I think a lot of people forget, or maybe just don't know, but your community colleges are really the step towards a bachelor's. But they end up with that associate's degree and certification, yes, out of high school. And yet we do have some students that actually end up with their associates when they graduate with their diploma. We had that situation in Boise a couple of times, but what's so neat is that if we prepare them for a community college, number one, it's cheaper. They can be working while they're going through because they've got their certification. Some background, but it's also a prep for a bachelor's if they choose to do that and move on. And they're helping finance it.
See,
That's the key.
with me, I still got the old mantra way back in vocational education where don't care if you go to college or not. I don't. What I want to do is I want to give you tools that by the time you graduate as a senior, you're going to be a productive member of society. If you want to go to college, fine. If you want to go in the military, fine. If you want to go on a mission, fine. But you're going to have something in your back pocket that's going to help you get a job, period. Because there's kids that'll go there for a year, drop out, and now they got $20,000 in debt and still no education to do anything. But if we give them something by the time they leave, then they can actually do something productive. So that's always been
A lot
mine.
of these certifications will make it so a kid can work their way through college.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're trying to do with the work-based learning is trying to get them at that senior year with the capstone is also get that apprenticeship internship out there. And then those companies are paying for their education.
And
That way
here's
it's
something else
zero debt.
going on. I went to a College of Eastern Idaho on legislative tour first part of the week. And I wanted to know, because we expanded advanced opportunities to include CT classes to be taken at community colleges if they're not offered in high school. So I said, did you know about this? And they said, yeah, now we're doing it. We've got 4 students because it just started in July, okay? There's 4 high school students, 2 of them are in assistant, and 2 of them are in machining class. But they're opening up classes for these high school kids. The high school counselors don't know yet these things are available. And so, but what's happening is they're trying to line up these CT classes at the community college level so they can get college credit, so they can become a CT instructor, so it leads to college. So they're in time, I think CTE will lead to college credit. It isn't really happening all the time now, but they're moving more and more that direction. So they figure that by the time they get the counselors up to snuff, next year Boise School District has 65 kids in either HVAC, plumbing, or electrician apprenticeship programs. So they've embraced it.
Yeah. Well, I'm in my day, you went through college and came out without debt.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that.
Mhm.
It's a while ago. But
You could work your way
you
through.
could work your way
Yeah,
through school.
that's
That's what I
true.
did.
That is,
And
But now
I hadn't thought of that.
it's got to happen. You got to have if colleges aren't going to reduce the amount of cost to it,
and these kids coming out of high school better have a better paying job.
I think that's
Get them through.
a great concept too, Bill. A good point, because that I kind of shudder when I hear that discussion about how expensive going to the universities are and the colleges. It's going to be that way. It's going to be.
I bet you got out of
but-
school with basically no debt, right?
Exactly, totally. And I did work.
Mhm.
I did work my way.
So there's a
So
policy
that's a good
discussion that the Emmett School District could consider. And it's part of state law now if you want to. But you could, as far as the senior project could be a capstone project,
Mhm. A certification.
certification. Then they could still write the report, but that could be their capstone project.
But in order to do that, they'd have to know the path that they were.
They- they-
Yeah, and that's why that's starting at the 8th grade is so important. Allows in that 3 years.
Time to figure it
And
out.
then that 4th year, they've got their,
Because who you have running the
Senior
program, the
project.
senior project program right now, tends to be, and I don't know exactly who you have right now, but tends to be your English department.
Mhm.
And they tend to be a 4-year, they tend to look at that more. So I'm just saying that is something you could discuss with your high school folks and see if you wanted to encourage more students to do that or not. Just a thought. It's your district, you can do what you want.
Turns out we can't.
Well, you can in this situation.
Yeah. Then we do have some choices.
You do have some choices. Yeah, you can't do what you want. That's true. Charter update. Well, we were going to meet. We're ready to move on? Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to rewrite our charter because we've got bylaws and all sorts of things in it. It'll probably be about 25 pages, and we're going to try to have that to you before next board meeting.
Right.
So I don't know if you need any more. Then you can tell us what you think of it.
yeah.
No?
Is this,
Are you good with that?
yep,
Okay.
So on your next, or on the December agenda, we should be able to present it,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Aviation program.
So I talked to Dave because he was heading up north. He had to go back up to his farmland, but he said he's working right now on, there's a possibility of getting some donations by a couple individuals to be able to get a hangar built free and clear that will house not only a glider plane, whatnot, but also a classroom.
Classroom.
So then we'd be able, out here at the airport. Yep. And then we'd be able to do that. Then again, it's not on the high school site, but possibly we just have one course out there. Maybe your capstone course would be out there, or maybe your junior, senior course would, but your main one would be on the high side.
Courses that nature, you'd never be able to hold within the school anyway.
No. Usually you're going out somewhere and having hands-on, that's the biggest component in your capstone is to show mastery of what you've done.
Ground school would be, of course, something you could do at the high school.
Yeah.
With all
Yep. AOPA,
Yes.
freshman and
Yeah.
sophomore years.
Yeah.
Yep.
and part of it could be in the auto
Absolutely.
section.
Yep.
Part of it in engineering, probably.
Yep.
The engineering,
Yeah.
With drones and ag, even with the flying of the drones.
Yeah.
The other thing is that Mayor Petrie is working very hard with the military, with his connections as a colonel. I shouldn't say that like that, really, because it isn't like, because I'm a colonel.
We'll take all the
But he
connections
has,
we can
that's
get.
right. But
Absolutely.
his connections are phenomenal in this, and he keeps us updated constantly. He's working with the brigadier and on some grants,
Mhm.
and the possibility of getting something like 189,000
Yeah.
is, I think, the last we heard, but it would be coming through military, which is pretty exciting. So,
Basically, we haven't done anything.
How's it going as far as the state of getting it
I mean,
approved as a
you're right,
project?
But as far as the state doing it, it's probably gonna have to be the next director of CTE.
right,
As far as, that'll be on their plate, his or her plate.
they may not
So-
realize what's going on there.
Right.
You might fill
So
them in.
Dwight Johnson, the head of the Department of CTE, has stepped down. He's going to be there until they hire the next person. They have the State Board of Education is who presides over the Department of CTE. And so they have the state board there and then several people around, Stacy Lowe being one of them I know, sits on their committee to hire. And so they're going to hire the next CTE head which I think is going to shake things up immensely in the right way, mind you, because I think we've kind of hit a stalemate. I went down and kind of butted heads a little bit because of my charming personality, but then I didn't get hardly anywhere just because I'm just, a little fish. But I got invited by Senator Thane to go down and talk to him, and it's a whole different ballgame when you have a senator in there talking at the same. I was like, that's weird. I got to start taking you more and more meetings. But yeah, so since then, I mean, I think we've really started shaking things up. We're one of the top 5 CTS schools that they're going to highlight this year. We put an article in with our capstone graduation program that we have. They're going to be having a whole big write-up of it and what we've done there. And then we have a group coming out next Thursday to film for about an hour, some different courses with the teachers and the students and working together. And that's going to be a big promotion for Career Tech. So we're on the cusp of doing some great things.
Yeah, and just for your information, I went over and visited the charter school, it's a CT charter school, and they have a major, retired major, was told he needed to talk to you, so he's in aviation.
All right.
We might be able to
Sounds good.
poach an employee or something.
Yeah.
Pretty
Absolutely.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll give you this contact and
Okay.
let him know what we're doing, and 'cause he seems to be a really a go-getter.
Yeah, hook him up with the colonel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next joint meeting,
Let's see, is it February, December?
Let's do December.
December.
Before the January, in case there's a.
Let's do December 25th.
Yeah.
Love it.
you're not doing anything that day. I think January's good.
Well, we need to,
We want to have
Probably have one
before.
more.
we need to before the year's end, I think, don't we? Just
One
to
with the
bring,
current board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Board, or the
Yeah.
lame duck.
And that's when
Oh,
we should be out at your place.
Yeah,
To
I mean,
do a
it wouldn't
tour.
need to be a long one because we could do we could do the tour as most of the meeting.
so yeah, when does the new board take?
January.
January meeting,
At
The January board meeting, which is the,
8th, January 8th.
January 8th, yeah.
That is the most messed up thing I've ever heard in my life.
what do you mean? That's what the legislature did.
Oh, my God, what a mess.
The 8th on a Wednesday?
Oh, my Lord. I mean, I just can't believe it. It's just, you talk about chaos at it's,
Yeah.
Tell us what you really think.
Yeah.
oh, my God, I just can't imagine
Right
doing that
next
to
to the-
anybody. I
Right
mean,
next
to
to the funding
anybody.
formula.
Right.
Yeah, the funding
Oh,
formula.
my gosh, yeah, you do that and they better come in on open
That-
meeting law. They better come in. You just don't have time to train people for stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
It's crazy.
you trained me.
Well, there's another side.
Yeah, really, Ronnie?
Well, just don't have anything that you want to hide and tell everybody everything you're doing. That's basically what the open meeting law is.
Yeah.
Except for some things you don't want people to know.
Oh, so it's supposed to be.
If
There are-
you go an executive
But I
meeting
was
and
just
can't let
thinking
anything
that.
out, but you can
Reminds.
do
Yeah, it's
business,
just
but you
like-
can't, yeah.
Yeah.
It gets.
Well, there are
And
some
don't
reasons.
talk to anybody.
Or the 18th.
Don't be in
I'm
the
leaving
same
on a
grocery
trip
store.
on the 18th.
Say again?
Okay.
The week of the 16th, is that what we're thinking?
I was looking at the
January?
17th.
December.
Of December.
I'm leaving
Really?
the 18th. So
The December meeting
You going to
is the
Hawaii or
11th of
And
December. So,
maybe Monday the 16th.
South wind.
Good.
for
Monday the
Christmas
16th.
vacation.
School's out for Christmas break then, Heather.
I believe
The
it's the
21st.
23rd. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, it was
Saturday.
2 full weeks
Yeah.
last time, so I don't know if it's that Monday, the 23rd.
It is the 23rd is
And
the
then
start of
we're
it.
gone the 23rd through the 10th. No.
So the last day is the 20th.
They go back to
That's a good
school
day.
on January 6th.
Yes.
I'm flying
Okay.
back from Cancun on the 20th.
So the week of the 16th, what do folks
Yeah,
have
that would
open?
be the best.
Well, that'd work.
Eye surgery on the 17th.
So
How about the 16th?
how
16th,
about
Monday the 16th.
16th,
Yeah, I
during
can do
it,
that.
Let's do
having
it.
our meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
Monday,
So Monday the 16th,
December 16th.
What
At
time?
what time?
is at your
4
facility.
o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Is
4
that
o'clock?
right?
4 o'clock?
Sounds good.
Out at,
We'll have our new
what's,
table
what
At the
is
new
Work Center?
Work Center.
PR2TA Work Center.
We'll have Christmas music playing.
Yeah, we could do a gift exchange.
I hate gift exchanges. I don't like anything about
Can you
Christmas.
just like bah humbug anymore?
Yeah, I could.
Like we could just do Christmas
We could make
cookies
pie.
for you then.
Did
You have
know that
chocolate pie.
Santa
Chocolate
and Satan
pie.
Have the same letters in their
I
names.
heard him say he's going to
Oh,
Camp
yeah.
Burger and he's not
I
ball
did.
humbug.
I did hear that.
Chocolate pie, huh, Pat?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll trust her to make a good chocolate pie.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
I've actually made one of those,
No, your creek.
the chocolate pie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
Hmm.
you know, some things just deserve a good chocolate pie. Okay, anything else?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
So who is going to the conference up north?
I am Bob and Craig, but Terry's
Drive in
driving.
separate?
Yes.
Okay,
Just two of us.
okay. The first night we were, all gonna go to, we talked about going to dinner together.
Sorry.
So if that's something that you are interested in, just let us know.
Well, if you give it back my.
Yeah, that's
Not that anybody's paying it all attention
I am.
anymore.
I'm listening.
Because
So-
I asked Craig and he said yes, he
Yes.
plans on
And then
riding
the
the van.
second night, I'm hoping we all go to Harrison. We're gonna go
Harrison
At Harrison.
at Whitney's place.
Yes. Yeah.
You know how far Harrison is?
Yeah, I do, but we've got the minivan.
It's across the lake.
It's 20 miles.
But it's across the
Oh, I went to school at North Idaho
I know,
College
darling, it's what,
Huh?
and I took many
28
drives,
28 minutes.
lake.
saw many things, especially in Wallace.
You're still on behind.
You're on.
I love it.
I'm still,
Oh, yeah, I love Harrison. It
people
is
get a
so
very
beautiful.
education listening to me now, talking about Wallace.
Oh, no.
All right, you get this.
You guys are headed out. huh?
Yeah,
I'm not saying-
it didn't say anything bad.
If you're
So,
I'm already
so Bob,
You wanna
just
go
let
that
me know
way?
if you are interested in going to dinner on that
At least.
first night.
Yeah.
We're just gonna make reservations.
I'll want to have dinner.
Are you, is your wife coming?
No,
Okay, okay. And then.
she wanted to, but I told her no. She did. We were gonna save us some friends and said she didn't want to go. And I said, okay, I'm riding the bus.
Okay, well, Danny's gonna come too, so,
Program
and then maybe on the way, if we could all decide, we can separate up which, person is going to which
If you got some.
workshop.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That way we don't all end up at the same
I
one.
apparently signed up for a early bird workshop, but I don't
If I
remember.
don't hear from him by the middle of next week, I'll just call him.
I don't think.
No,
It's right here.
Okay, I'll just call him.
I'll do that.
There you are.
That I asked that Betsy called me earlier because I asked.
We're in the public records training, the open meeting law training.
Which one? I asked a question.
If, you were in an executive session and somebody is going, and you disagree with with an item in the executive session, do you stay
Oh,
in?
correct. You
or do you
stay in
walk
or
out?
You go out.
Oh,
Right. What do you do? What action do you take?
all right.
That's a great question.
Well,
to
that
ask.
is a great question.
And there's no
What-
legal answer to that.
Oh, my gosh.
It's never been tried in the courts. Never.
Really? Wow.
So for your information,
Yes.
at the same white pine charter school that I went to, I talked to the chairman of the board, his name is
Yes.
Adam, I think.
Uh-huh.
And I asked him, have I told you about my elementary flexibility bill?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He said, that's a great idea. We get our kids, they test their kids every 45 days.
I like
And they want them a year or two ahead of
I
time.
like that. So, you know what my thought was today?
What do you do?
That we need to